All right, hello and welcome back to Selling Frankston. In today's episode, we're talking about what realestate.com.au doesn't tell you in the price that it sells for. We had 3 very, very good sales over the last month. We had more than that, but there's 3 case studies we're going to dive into. You've got 3 properties, 3 very different outcomes. You've got the war, fuel crisis, all these things happening in the world. We're going to dive into what actually happened in those sales. So 11B Catherine Parade, Frankston. Dad, that was one out of the box, wasn't it?
That was. It certainly debunked all the numbers that we have gone through without question. We had an excellent property, and funny enough, like leading into that, they weren't thinking of getting the property styled. So you got to understand this was a new built property just off Beach Street, east of Frankston CBD. And look, I certainly saw that this was going to be not only a street record, but an area record for it was one of the best units I'd seen. And that was the comment from most agents that, pitched for the job. So successfully we were able to get it. They chose us because they looked at the fact that we've had $1 million sales in Frankston continuously, and we're really impressed by our auction results and the process. So anyway, we went to auction. Probably the hardest thing, Josh, with that was we saw that the price range that we put it on for, $950 to $1,040, it was going to wipe out a huge chunk of the market. And
what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is there's more buyers sort of under $1 million than over $1 million. The owners were adamant, look, we want, the top end of the range. And I was like, understandably, yep, we could potentially get there. But I think if we set the reserve and around that 950, well, then we could have probably, if they were going to take sort of, a reserve of 950, we could have probably then, advertised at 895 to 975, and we would have, that's my line of thinking. They chose to go the other way. And look, in some ways, very transparent. So we had 12 groups in 4-week campaign, and generally speaking,
that's not good.
That's not good. We usually get on average 48 groups in that 4-week turnaround. So, you only got 25% of the buyer pool to work with that what we would normally have. Best thing was we had 2 buyers that were registered. Actually, one was registered pre the auction, and we were very, very, very fortunate enough to know someone who we pitched for their job. We lost it. We found out that they'd sold. They were looking for an investment property, and we told them, and we informed them, come along to the auction. You just never know what might happen.
That's the difference, I guess, when you're working one market versus trying to work multiple suburbs. When you have pitched for the business, you still track what
Absolutely.
that owner sells for, because eventually that seller's going to become a buyer. They wanted to, we knew their motivation. They wanted to buy something in the area, something a bit newer, and that's exactly what they're out, looking for. And it was just right place, right time. Place. 2 days before it sold, before their auction, they turn up on the day. You calling them by name. The one thing, I guess, like what you said, which was really interesting, in a market that seems like that property probably would have had 50 groups this time last year. Just given the amount of demand and the amount of investment coming in?
I don't necessarily agree, Josh, I'll be honest. I think we would have had 50 groups, I think, if it was 895 to 950.
Yeah.
As soon as you put $1 million.
I don't know. I think anything even over $1 million last year was really cooking. I think now everyone's a bit more cautious.
Not for a unit, because we certainly we got a record price east of Frankston by a large sum. So I think the nearest property price sale was sort of in the high 8s.
Yeah.
And look, the great thing is, look, we sold it for $1,051,500, which was huge on the day, considering, look, like you said earlier, Josh, we are in a time where, fuel prices are through the roof. You've got the war in Iran and, with the US, you got interest rate rises. There's whisperers that, there potentially could be another couple more interest rate rises. There's all this doom and gloom, and it's very similar to probably COVID days, like at the very, very beginning of COVID, where we didn't really know what was going to happen.
But what happened? What was everyone coming out in the media and saying about when COVID happened? They said that property prices would plummet by 30%.
Yeah.
And what happened? It actually went the other way.
It went the other way. And this is the thing. I can't see the difference between COVID and where we are now. There's a couple of major things that really from my perspective, I look, we had a lot of government, grants that they were giving to employees, to stay at home, etc. And I think my belief, and I always was, and I'm going to be honest, I thought it was a crock of shit, and I absolutely to this day say that we didn't curb the virus at all. If anything, it just ran rampant. We're the most locked up state, and as such, we are now, all the money that we gave out, we are getting taxed through the nose due to these excessive lockdowns and stay at homes, etc. So this time round, we don't have a government that's going to be able to freely give any money.
Not only that, I think, like you said, anything under the mill is very good because of just what the government. It's a government backed. There's an engine behind it because the first home buyers
up to 950.
Up to 950. Yeah. But then you've got a lot of downsizing happening because of the hospital, and you've still got that. Some investors, and we even had Sky Hammer on the other week, and he said now he's getting clients who are purchasing to live in Frankston, not just purchasing to invest. So I think getting back to, like you said with Catherine, definitely the foot traffic was nowhere near.
And even online on realestate.com, like we know that the average campaign that we run here at Merchant is roughly, we get about 1,000 views per week, which is in excess of the average campaign that most agencies run, which is really, really, that's a two-pronged attack because we have our owners in alignment with the market and where the market is, if that makes sense. So we generally will get more. With this one, we were well below. So I think by the end of the campaign, once the sold sticker was put on the nicely crisp on the board, we only had up to, I think it was just over 2,500 views, which in a 4-week campaign was substantially lower.
Why do we reckon that was? Just pure price?
Price, absolutely. Yeah. The advertised price had a major impact on the numbers online as well as the numbers through the but we were in uncharted waters. So for us, we needed to, and that's a challenge we love and take on when we know that when we believe in the product, we know that can we get an absolute cracking price for our clients? Absolutely. And we delivered. And our clients were, they were stoked, and the purchasers, they were very happy as well. So to have two people bidding it, and Josh, to your credit, you shot a text message to the underbidders to make sure that they were there. Can I just walk through? It was interesting. 2 days before the auction, the owner set the reserve at 950, and they said, "Well, look, if we got multiple parties, we're able to put it at 950." Ideally, our dream price would be $1 million, but we're understanding of the market conditions. The owners actually wanted to cancel the auction. You heard me on the phone, and I had to discuss with them. It's about the process, and all I need is one. As the auctioneer, I can bid against them. I'll pass it in at a level where we know we can get. Oops, I better turn that phone off. That's a first.
It is. That's not bad.
And, look, we were able to sort of explain to the owner, look, it's a process. So, if we don't get the price, we can pass it in, negotiate one-on-one with the buyer right there and then. But, hey, we don't know who can turn up on the day. Some buyers may not register, and you've seen that firsthand, Josh. Yeah,
multiple times someone will show up, bid on the day of the auction and actually win the property. I guess if you see something you like, it's, this is a brand new build. It wasn't something that you'd necessarily needed to do a building and pest on. It had been done by a very, very good builder.
Tell us a bit about how did the buyer, because the buyer had now this goes to show it's all about getting a good building inspector. We had a building inspection. Run us the story on the building inspection. We had the day before at 9:30.
Yep. So there was meant to be a gentleman that showed up.
Yep.
He didn't. He shows up on the day.
So Josh, he thought. So hang on. So he turned up on the day. What do you mean by turn up on the day?
Day of the auction.
So what do you mean? He came through the open?
He literally came through the open. He came through 10 minutes beforehand. He was like, "Hey, I've stuffed up my days. I was meant to be here yesterday. I just need to quickly run through the home and then identify anything."
My goodness.
He walked through, and initially he said, "Look, this you can already tell it's done to a high level of standard. Obviously, all homes have little issues. There's always little factors that come in." But he said, "Look, everything is Mickey Mouse, as good as it can be." Gave him that confidence. The buyers then had a quick little chat with them. The good thing was, because the owner's there on auction day, he even said, "Hey, if the building inspector needs to come and have a chat, come and have a chat." But I think that,
and that goes to show, like, we would love, like, we're happy to be transparent. I think the thing that was really awkward, and I remember I was there when the guy turned up and he said, we at our opens, for those who don't know, when we're at an open for inspection, we log you in through our system. And what that does is we'll get your name, your details, etc. And then we will, when you walk through, you'll get a prompt, a text message prompt that will have the property as well as the information, statement of information, and a little bit of an e-brochure, which is really important. This guy was like, yeah, I'm just here to do the building inspection, which blew my mind, especially when, in 25 minutes' time, we were calling the auction. I was calling it, and this guy was going through with other prospective buyers and neighbours in the house.
Which is, ironic. But, then you have people that walk through the house who was the underbidder and see the property, a bit older in age. They go, I like it or I don't. They make a decision. It is quite funny. I feel like the younger generation or some people will do over research. Like they'll do a lot of DD, spend for building and pests on every single property they look at, and they don't even buy it. They have to buy it. And they can only buy one unless they've got endless coins. But
from your experience, Josh, you one of the things that a lot of people underestimate when you're running an auction campaign, it's the follow up. And I know that you're immensely and we've gone through it. You're run through like a normal typical campaign. Like last week, auctions coming up. Just tell the viewers what you're actually doing.
Well, the best thing with an auction is it provides a high level of certainty for the auction day. So my job, and essentially any agent's job, should be getting the people there, making sure that anyone that's really interested in that home shows up on the day. Whether or not they can bid, whether or not they're finance ready, you just never know with a property. So what we will do leading on auction week is probably the biggest week. We always do follow-up calls, and any agent, you should be calling anyone from your Saturday opens, making sure that...
Now, for those listening, do you think a text or an actual conversation?
Conversation, call.
Yeah.
You want to have a call.
Can I ask why that is?
Well, you can't. I don't think you can. Some people don't like the call. Like some buyers will be like, don't call me, but will show up on the day and they will give you nothing. It's a bit of poker face, I think.
Sure.
But I think that you can ask very good questions. You can get to know where they're at. You can just give them a call and say, hey, how's your search going? How did you find that one over the weekend?
So say let's do a bit of role play here, Josh. I'm a buyer. I'm looking at...
I don't want to do... Let's not do role... We're not doing role play on a... Anyway, but I think the main thing and the one thing I'll take away from an auction campaign, and probably the most essential point, is the auction week calls are super critical. And especially when if you have a realistic owner who's got confidence on actually selling the property on the day, their reserve is set inside the range. It gives you... like you say, it gives you a high level of confidence when you're walking out as the auctioneer. You know you're going to sell it.
Yep.
You know you've got confidence. You know you've got your bidders there. It becomes a bit of strategy over... This one became strategy over the foot traffic. We weren't just going to declare it straight away,
Correct.
hey, we're selling it. We would have protected the price, gone, okay, maybe we'll come back in and negotiate after if the only one bid came up.
Yep.
It didn't just become about, oh, wait. And when you realise you had another bidder there, it was... Come on. I'm going to activate it. Then he bids. Now you're on. Now you've got a bidding war. But I think auction week for me is your biggest week. You're calling everyone, walking through the auction day process, making sure little things like, making sure your bank transfer limit has been increased.
Very good call.
Just little things that people probably wouldn't think about if they do attend an auction. Also knowing, hey, my dad's going to be the auctioneer. I'm in the crowd. I can assist. If you need me to throw a hand up, I'll show you where the current bid is. I will haggle you. I will encourage you to put a bid in. That is my job. Yeah. And if you're serious about the home, I will try my best to help you. That's all I try.
Josh, and to your credit, I remember vividly your first auction that I sort of trained you up on, and I sort of said, look,
I remember it.
I remember it vividly because it was one of the hardest auctions I reckon we had in a time where there was a bit of uncertainty. Anyway, it was very early in the infant stages of merchant. So for those who don't know, we're coming up to 4 years. So it would have been, good over 3.5 years ago. And I'll never forget, I said to Josh, whatever you do, just don't stand there and look at me and listen to every word that I say.
I think that's exactly
and
what I
you
did.
were like frozen, and we did it indoors. You slid up. If it was like Homer Simpson, it was like that hedge. You just wanted to just hide because it was quite awkward. Like I was looking, I'm like, Josh, you want to walk around and even though you knew the buyers, you didn't have that confidence. But look, we got that result sold. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is,
hey, a house
to see you bounce around as an auctioneer, there's nothing worse than in a really hot market, bids are flying. You can get them, right? As an auctioneer and the market starts to slow down, it starts to, we're seeing it at the moment, clearance rates are below 60%, which is telling us it's becoming more of a buyer market. When it's over 80, over 75% clearance rates, it's a seller's market. So we're starting to see that turnaround and the importance of an agent work in that crowd. My goodness. If you have someone just standing there, slapped up against the wall, not wanting to move, not even talk to a buyer.
Well, markets can change at any time.
Yeah.
Like we've seen it with the investor market. They went from the hottest here.
Yeah.
Frankston was affordable at once and it was undervalued.
What do they say now?
It's expensive.
And that is why when we're sitting in people's lounge rooms and people say to us, we've just spoken to another agent and they said, we've got all these buyers agents want to come through. What are the buyers agents saying right now?
Yeah, well, it's
expensive to buy in Frankston.
It's getting up. It's encroaching $1 million. But the great thing is, and you got to remember, the greatest thing that Frankston and Frankston South have going for them is they're becoming more owner. I mean, Frankston South is an 81% owner occupied market, and Frankston's now at 60%. So more owners are moving in.
It's definitely and we're going to start to see a bit more of that as well with the potential of the capital gains implications that could be happening with the budget that's going to be coming forth in May. There's a lot of investors a little bit. They're on the if they've had their properties in their portfolio for over 10 to 15 years here in Victoria, there's a few people that are going, well, look, we're better off getting out now.
Got your growth instead of paying.
Got my growth. I want to, instead of getting slugged more on the actual gain, let's lock out now.
Yeah.
So
but, I think the one thing with Spring Street, it did come down. The foot traffic wasn't great. If we can summarise it, the foot traffic wasn't great.
That was Catherine Parade.
Sorry. Oh, yep. Sorry.
Oh, you jumped.
Did I jump to
Spring?
Did I say Spring or foot? I don't even know what I said.
Spring.
Anyway, sorry, Catherine. Yeah, I did. I looked down at Spring. With Catherine, the foot traffic wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
It was making sure you protected the owner's price.
Correct.
Also, whilst knowing, hey, we've got a registered bidder. We had the one. It was quality over quantity. We had 3 Section 32 requests, but the 2 just went MIA. They just
and that
vanished.
happens. And then let's be upfront. We have people that we say, look, that there's buyers here, but we can take the horse to the water, but we can't make them drink. So that old adage of, look, if you get all you need is 2 people in an auction. All you need is 1, because as the auctioneer, I can bid against them. However, I will never bid above the nominated reserve price.
I want to bring it back to what you said about something. Anyone can sell a house in a hot market. You could put it on, you have a lot of interest, they will just start to compete because the desperation kicks in. The fear of missing out definitely kicks in. When the market does shift, it's the agents that have kept in contact with those hot buyers, the ready-to-go buyers.
So true.
They're actually suggesting, hey, have you looked at these homes that are on the market? Because every result in the marketplace, when the market starts to shift and not as many deals happen, actually affects every other seller that they bring on. So if we see a property we think is perfect for another buyer, we'll say, hey, you should go and have a look at that property. Go and look at it.
It's with such and such a real estate agent. And for us,
we don't get anything.
We don't get anything from it, but what you're doing is you're building trust and you're building integrity.
Momentum in the market as well.
And you're building momentum in the market. And it's funny, I've had some agents that will say, oh, don't buy that property of Juan or Joshua, etc. And I'm like, and the buyers turn around and were smart enough to see through that and said, look, we decided they wanted us to buy another property of them that was coming to market. The purchasers, fortunately, they saw that the agent only had their best interest at heart, not the owners. And that's something that we always pride ourselves on. Could we sell, like there's been times where we've had homes come into market and we've had buyers that would have been suitable for them, but they were like, we're looking to buy that one. And we're like, hey, well, we're happy to help you. Like, don't, in terms of the negotiations, if that's where you want to be, that's in the right spot. You can see that there for the next 10 to 15 years, lock yourself in, go for it.
But so I think, like I said, service matters. I think
Absolutely.
When you're looking at it, I think you can easily go hot market, everything sells, market shifting. You definitely want to choose an agent.
I love these markets because the cream rises. People that have been experienced in any market. And I've been through the GFC. I've been through, when the banks were putting in new legislation. I saw we've been through COVID. We've been through multiple interest rate rises over my 25 years. To me, it's another walk in the park. And one thing is for certain, people need roofs over their head. That's reality. Let's get it through your head. Buyers will come out and say, oh, there's this, that, the other. Well, hey, that's fine. If you don't want to buy this, that's okay. No problem.
It's like when you walk into an Adidas store and you always wanted Nike. Why are you there? No, seriously, I know that sounds really bad, but it's like, guys, if you're coming into the house to just shit on it, I'm pardon my French, come in here to do a bit of market research and understand what a comparable is to the one you're looking at and just get a feel for the foot traffic, a feel for the actual product. Don't come into the open home, though, and just talk absolute negativity into the house, which is also throws other people off and puts things in their mind. If they actually like it, people will follow other people. It is a sheep mentality.
I always say, that there's people that have been quite astute and brought in markets when they were told not to, and one of those properties we'll talk about. We actually might talk about this now. Robinson's Road, 320 Robinson's Road in Langwarrin South. That one there, I sold that in the peak of COVID. So we just got announced that we were going to have lockdowns, et cetera, the virus, and that was early 2020. So this guy had made an offer, and the owners had sort of said, "Look, we'd like a little bit extra," which I was able to get from that guy, and he was on the head. He was sitting on the bench, going, "You know what, Juan? I think with what's going on in the world, I maybe might not want to go through with the sale now." And I said to him, "Michael, this is an opportunity, because where do you find a property, 2.5 acres, such as this? You're a builder, you can do the works, you can everything's there. It's a flat block, very rare home in the sense it was a 2-story home. Not many homes that are on 2.5 acres are 2-story.
No, so it's very, very rare.
Very rare. And I said, with the workmanship you can do, you can get this, and over time, whether it be 10 years, you should be able to double your money." Well, fortunately, he doubled his money and more within 6 years. Now, he actually said to me, "Juan, I'm very, very grateful that you pushed me in to make sure I bought at that particular time." And that is where, if buyers don't see value or if they don't feel right with the transaction, they'll back out.
Yeah, it's very true. And I mean, the cool thing is, and that is a very common theme, we're seeing a lot of people who are buying, they're transacting in the same market. Like the owner for Robinson's Road, he's now going to go and purchase. He's going to get his regional.
I've helped him purchase, and he saved $20,000 on the other end, which is phenomenal. So he's happy as Larry. We've got a great review there on realestate.com.
What was your take on that campaign? Because that was, look, we had that private sale. Did you think we were going to achieve the price that we ended up achieving?
I always thought interesting. My gut was always 2.4 to 2. I'd said 2.3 to 2.5.
Yeah.
Every day 2.3. I reckon 2.4 is achievable, maybe 2.5. The owners said, "Look, we'd like it to start at 2.4 to 2.65 and 2.65. So we had, in the first 2 weeks, I think we had just under 20 groups. And look, there was 2 buyers that ultimately came through originally, didn't see the value because they thought the owners were wanting 2.65. And then I sat with the owner and said, "Look, this is what we need to do. We need to reposition ourselves in the marketplace where we're going to get more interest, where the buyers are seeing it, but we're now wanting offers on the table." We had verbalization, people saying this is what we would be willing to pay, which was around that 2.3. So I said to my client very quickly and effectively, and to his credit, he was on the ball. He said, "Well, I like this property that I'm looking at. I can't transact on that unless we get offers on mine. How do we go about it?" And I said, "Well, look, we know that you'll get 2.3. I reckon we can get 2.4, but we need to position ourselves. So let's do 22.95 to just over the 2.5 mark." And fortunately sold for 2.4.
So a big key that we're seeing and like we said, in a hot market, everything's pretty much selling.
Yep.
Correct? I mean, if you look at the, like you said, the auction clearance rate is pretty much 4 out of 5 homes are selling pretty much every weekend. More or less, more than that as well.
Say that again, Josh. Sorry.
When you have the auction clearance rate in a seller's market north of 80%, normally 4 out of 5 homes, if not 5 out of 5 are selling. Yep. When the market's changing, motivation really does matter. If he hadn't have seen something that he really liked, that was slow, that had been on the market with like 6 different agents and dropped from $2 million all the way down to, I don't even know, I think it was like an 800,000 deduction.
It was, it went down from 1.8 to 2 mil to 1190 to I think it was 1250, and we got it under the range. But the key takeaway, Josh, in what you just said was the motivation. So when people have real motivation and they want to transact, most people don't just have mountains of money sitting in their bank accounts. No. Majority of the time, even though people, they can get bridging finance, etc., they want certainty in this marketplace. So once they knew, certainly, bang, here was an offer. It was in concrete. It was there. Then he could go and, go, okay, that's done. Now move on to the next one.
And that was a good campaign. We were fortunate enough. And I think with acreage homes, I do believe private inspections are fantastic. You're always going to get great foot traffic through acreage homes just because it is a very niche buyer that you are catering for. Yeah. Not everyone wants to buy an acreage home. It's a very niche.
It's a niche market. And look, we were fortunate where we had great groups through and that's the other thing. The owners listened to the advertising that we did as well, and that was we did something there a little bit different, which was able to get some other people looking at it with more eyes, more eyeballs, more buyers that actually had money to spend. Unfortunately, we got 2 offers on the table, and the owners were very, very happy.
Brings us the 3 Spring Street Frankston property that was scheduled to go to auction, and we sold it the Thursday beforehand. Why did we do that?
Well, with that, it was an interesting one, the laws that are in play, which is understandably so.
This was a cheeky one, actually.
It was a cheeky one. We actually had the range 950?
Yeah, 950 to 1040.
And about...
And this was a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1930s Californian bungalow
on
395 square meters.
We always felt it's at around $1 million to $1.05 million. If we got the reserve set of $1 million, the 1040 range should be anything around that mark and above would be awesome. And look, it was well received in the public. We had a lot of buyer inquiry.
We had a lot of inquiry, a lot of foot traffic,
and it was perfect. In terms of, set and forget, you could move in, basically not have to do a thing. Had lots of charm and character. And the key element was this buyer that came through was overseas and an expat coming back to live and reside here in Australia, in Victoria. And he'd missed out on a few properties. Now, we had a range of 950 to 1040. We had someone who cheekily, he engaged a buyer's agent.
He listens to the show.
Yeah,
Daniel,
there you go.
Daniel.
Daniel, yep. And so we had an offer put forward to us in the range, closer to the top end of the range. Now, I hadn't said, I was meaning with leading up to the auction, you always sit down, talk and discuss where the buyers are, how many parties we have interested. So that come auction day, if we get the reserve set, we should get that plus more because there's multiple parties bidding. And the purchasers had sent an email saying, here's our offer, and if it doesn't get accepted, you've got till 9 a.m. the next morning to change the price and change everything advertised. So I hadn't even discussed, because the other option was, and that's what I was going to get around, because it happened to another property in that same in the suburb over that they were looking at. They actually,
they made a play. Long story short, they made a play at another property. Which, look, I had advisors. Funny you said, like, obviously not to buy other agent properties, but I did say, look, that property isn't at the caliber. That top end of the range will get, that's where it's going to be, if not more.
Yeah,
like it's
comfortably going to exceed. They had a range of 1050 to 1150.
Yeah.
And
they made a play at the middle of the range.
And they had a play at 1.1. So with ours, we had, so it was on the Tuesday. So for those who don't know, 3 days prior to an auction, if you make an offer and it gets accepted on the Wednesday or the Thursday, it's like under auction rules. It's got to be 10% down. There's no coming. It's sold 3 days before and 3 days after. So having that conversation with the owner, I had to sit down. And prior to me sitting with them, I already had conversations with other buyers that said, look, we're ready to go. We had multiple parties do building inspections as well. And it was a little bit cheeky by the buyer's agent because
he did well. He threw a curveball.
He threw a bit of a curveball, but what we did, we were able to, get the instructions from the owner. And as a selling agent, and I've seen and heard of this before where people have been given offers, but they've never been told about it. And so what happens is then on the day, the buyer's agent can buy it for cheaper. And then they talk to the owner and go, I actually made a play for it before the auction. You didn't take it. And the owners are mortified. I've never been one to do that. So if I know where we're at, I'll sit with my owners and discuss that. So I sat with my owner who, she's in her, she's a mature lady, grandmother, I sat with her.
Well worded. I know what you were about to say. You were about to say mid and then went grandmother.
And what we did, we had her daughter on loudspeaker, and what we did, by the time I met with the grandma, with my client, the purchaser decided to make a play for it even harder because they knew that there were other parties coming to the fore. And we said, look, if they're going to sell pre-auction, we now have to go to the market, explain to them that we have offers and this is where it's at. And they made a play, and they, the owners were happy at $1 million as a base for a reserve. And, the purchasers had made a play for 1.1. 45-day settlement, no conditions. And, so we went back to the drawing board, spoke to the owner and said, look, this is where we've already got these buyers we need to get in contact with, but are you happy to, and she said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, look, it's your call. I've seen where sometimes in a market there could be a bit of uncertainty. People might pull back a bit, that we instead of having 3 or 4 that they're super, super keen on the day, they may not reach that. So a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, so to speak. So she said, well, I'm off the same opinion. I think the 1.1's a great price, and the terms and no conditions, we're super happy, 10% down. Do they have to pay 10% on signing? I'm like, yeah, they do. It's like being at an auction. So fortunately, we then went to work. We got on the phone to all the other buyers. Of course, there were some really disgruntled people that had gone out of their way to.
Well, there was this is how good the property was. There was an owner in Frankston South that wasn't even looking. They just loved to come through open homes. They used to be a barista at auctions. They used to love watching auctions. They actually walked through the home and they went, you know what, we're going to make it an investment. They just didn't get time to do their building and pest. So that's one of them. But there was 6 in the end that made a play.
Yeah, there was 6.
It was pretty strong.
And it was interesting because we spoke to every single buyer. Guys, I'll just give you an example, right? This was a conversation we had. Guys, we've got an offer on the table. I'm going to be transparent with you. We're quoting 950 to 1040. Our owner's reserve was in the range. We've now received an offer in writing, 10% down, 60-day settlement. Actually, it was 45. It was 60. I think it went to 45 days. But they made an offer at 1.1. Now, we're selling it at that price, or if you come above that, the property's yours. Now, we had some buyers go, oh, are you telling me you've got 1.1? Yeah, we do. They didn't believe us. Now, I had one buyer. I actually had 2 buyers then submit offers to me even after the point, and I made it very clear, this is what offer we have. And then they made an offer of 1050 and there was another one at 1025. I wrote back and said, thanks for your offer, but it's not going to get accepted. We've already got a higher offer. Are you sure you're done? Is that your best? Yes. We don't believe you. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it is.
And guess what? When it's off for 1.1, they go, oh, I would have gone to that. Oh, fuck me. I'm sorry to swear, but are you for real? You bloody had every opportunity, you dickwit.
You can't say that.
Can't say that. But that frustrates me because, for us agents, we're being clear, hey, we got 1.1.
This brings me to another talking point because I actually just had this, I had this thought based on this situation. With the reserve having to be declared 7 days out from the auction, what's stopping someone from submitting an unconditional offer but not 3 days out so they still have their cooling off? Do you get me?
Yeah, I get you.
So
Yeah.
anyone out there that's watching, if you have an auction campaign 3 days before, 3 days after, there's no cooling off, right? You put an offer in and it's accepted. You're paying a deposit.
Yeah.
There will be ramifications if you don't. You're purchasing the home, which is great. However, if an owner declares, say for example, we had this one, Spring, declares it at 1 million on the Saturday, right? Saturday, 7 days before the auction. Buyer's agent comes in and goes, all right, 1.1 on Monday. And then are they allowed to cool off on Thursday?
No. Well, see, this is where it's going to be really interesting from the RIV.
I'm just curious.
I think if I was a seller and I knew that, hey, I'm realistic at $1 million. I've got my agents engaged me. I've got 40, 50 people that are coming through this campaign. There's some serious heat. I'm at $1 million. Now, if a buyer's agent comes in on Monday and says 1.1, the owner's got every right to turn around and say, no, I don't want it. Because it's not under auction terms.
No. I'm saying, what if it is? What if it's unconditional?
No. If it's on a Monday, 3 days prior.
No, you can put an offer in at any stage.
Yeah, but I would be saying straight away, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I get that. But what's stopping them from grabbing the contract and putting a formal offer forward? And then saying that they've
ultimately,
and
this is where it comes back.
What I'm trying to say?
I get what you're saying. I think it's a bit of a grey area because
it's a huge grey area because I don't know if they've thought about this. If you're telling me you can make an offer 5 days out because you know the reserve, you're just going to have buyers, more or less, you have buyers agents that play the cheeky card. If they can cool off, you've just screwed the whole campaign.
Well, but that's where I would be
or
saying,
would you just
I would be absolutely, and this is something that they'll probably look at. I've got a tactic that I would know. Actually, you know what I'd do? I wouldn't disclose that it's been sold. I'd just wait until it's unconditional, then I'd go bang. If it actually worked. No. So what I would do, this is what I would do. If I knew that I have to reveal the Section 32, I would not reveal the Section 32. I would not be handing out a Section 32 until the Wednesday morning off the auction week. Think about it. If you've got an auction, so the reality is if you're sending the contracts, right?
That's actually really clever, yeah.
If you think about it, like if you're doing it, if you've got to set, and on 1st of July, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have to set the reserve. I reckon it's a brilliant thing. I love it. I love telling all our clients, we don't disclose it, but when we say to them, hey guys, we're quoting 950 to 1040, the reserve's in the range. Well, guess what? As a buyer and as agents, we know that we're selling this and we're going to make it happen. How good is this? We're not going to sit there and go, oh, we're going to be fiddling with our thumbs. We know our owners are on their way to where they want to be. Okay? So if, for example, the rules to be, if you sent the Section 32 out and then on the Monday someone comes and submits an offer and it's perfectly way above the reserve, but it's not in auction terms, the buyer gets it, he cools off, well, that just upsets the whole campaign. You wouldn't put it up as...
No, so that's what I'm trying to say. I would, if say, for example, it's under auction, let's just talk under auction terms, not under non-auction. When we say auction terms, it means unconditional, deposits been met on what the owner needs, everything's been met on what the owner needs in terms of settlement.
But if you're outside those days, Josh, you're saying on Monday it's not under auction terms.
That's what I'm trying to say. No, so that's why I'm on the Monday.
Yep.
It's still technically under private sale because you got
Correct.
the cooling off. Unless you waive, unless the buyer gives, I'm waiving my cooling off period.
That's different. But once again, this is where there's going to be a lot of complexities that are going to come out of this. So I think it's really important. Ultimately, we're selling the property for the seller.
Wouldn't you just bring the auction forward?
I've done that a couple times.
Say for example, they declare the reserve and then you have, say, 5 people just run straight after it. You may as well just bring it forward 48 hours.
Well, there's that, but then also there's people that we saw only a couple of weeks ago where they turned up on the day. I mean, we've seen people turn up on the day of the auction and bid. I think when you're playing with people's livelihoods and with an auction, it's all about creating competition and getting a good price for yourself.
It's also giving
and you know what, being realistic in the market. How often do you see overpriced stock, suburbs? And I'm going to hit you, Mount Eliza. We've got the block coming. Guess what? There's no bloody auctions in Mount Eliza. Because everything's overpriced. And let's be honest, everything's overpriced by 200,000-300,000 because the agents go in and go, look, it's worth 2.5 mil when it's only worth 2 mil. Now, if you go to auction and you say you're going to get 2.5 mil, that campaign's going to be an absolute crock of shit. So you get to the day and there's no one there. Mark my words, I'm telling you, overpriced suburbs always have always have low auction results.
Makes no sense. But yes,
what I'm saying is there's no auctions in the area. Think about it.
I get the block. I don't know why they're doing an auction.
Mate, at the block, I mean, look, the one thing that Channel 9 needs to do, what they did last year, which was stupid, they set the reserves all way too high.
Well, so if the 2 homes in Dalesford that haven't sold,
there's 2 still a year out,
and they're screwed. I don't.
So what I'm saying is, so imagine this: the block, and it's going to be auctioned in after July 1. It's going to be a great talking point because as soon as they identify the reserve, imagine if a BA goes in and goes, "Oh, we want to make an offer." Oh, but no, we're going to auction. Well, this is where you got to be. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Really going to be interesting. Well, but if the property's worth 3 mil and you're advertising it at 3 to 3.3, which a lot of the properties in Dalesford did, and they didn't have Mr. Portelli, the Lambo guy, there to bump up the prices. If they had quoted 2.7 to 2.95, set the reserve at around that 2.7, they would have every single property would have sold, and they should have done a deal instead of saying I reckon what the block maybe should do is say, hey, the proceeds that you get at the 2.7, anything above that, will go 50%.
I think, like you said, and back to your point of everything to do with the RERV and what the government are doing, sounds like pretty much everything that they're doing is to help the buyer, not really ever helping the seller, which is really
helping the seller. No.
But it's ironic, right? Because what does a buyer become in the end?
It becomes a seller.
So that I don't understand why they continue.
I do agree with some of their principles that they've brought in.
Yeah, like which ones?
I would say the building pest inspection. One, but I think to get the seller to pay for it, that's not right.
That's a conflict of interest.
I think what they should do is have an independent arm, and you log on when you're doing your Section 32, and it doesn't have any affiliation with whoever. And that building inspector has to go and do the building and pest, and then sells that report, onwards to the seller. But also the seller can buy it; he gets a copy of it, and then they go, "Oh shit, maybe we need to do things." And I think maybe a Section 32, even before you go to market, it's probably good to have.
But wouldn't it be
a building?
What would be? Yeah, no, I get what you mean. If the seller has to pay for it, they also have to pay for if they've made any renovations or changes. You have to do a building. Section 137B.
Yep.
Which you have to get a builder out, verify all the changes, pay money there. It's a lot of money that the seller is paying to go to market, which shows a high level of certainty. When a seller's on the market, I can tell you one thing: they are definitely going to sell. They're pretty committed to selling. However, I do feel like with the reserve, I think it'll make sellers tentative to take it to auction. Auctions are arguably the most favoured sale method in Frankston.
I disagree, Josh. I think there'll be more. I reckon there'll be more auctions coming.
Do you reckon it just provides a high level of certainty?
Absolutely. You know how many investors we are selling. If we sell 100 homes, 20 of those will be investors. They're my best clients when it comes to an auction. You know why? Because generally speaking, they will look and go, okay, profit $100,000 divided by 3. If there's 3 owners. It's 33,000. It's they're more realistic.
There's a lot of first home buyers are buying in Frankston though. Do you think they're going to be receptive of wanting to sell at auction?
You mean purchase?
No, they've purchased. So a lot of people lately have purchased in Frankston as own occupiers, as first home buyers because it's up to 950 now. I'm saying, do you reckon that demographic will be more inclined to go to auction? I would argue a majority of the people that go to auction are one, investors, and two, the older demographic, because I understand that's what creates competition. I'm just spitballing here. I do think you're right. I think you're right with other suburbs. I just look and I go, it all does come back to your risk appetite, and I think a lot of people and a lot of younger people need more control, especially with the devices around them.
Well, you know what's interesting? I hear. You know what's another really dangerous thing that I'm seeing at the moment is, you've got every real estate.com. If you've bought in the last few years, it's got your property in there, etc. It'll spit out a number that it's the property's worth, right? And what that does, it says, this is with high confidence. This is what it's worth. Now, the reality is it could be you might have it invested. The tenants are keeping it not great. Markets change. What they're saying it's worth, it could be 10% below that. Now, sometimes we've seen clients, they'll look at, we can give all this information, by the way, with high confidence is what it's worth. And in some cases, we can show the purchasers, but even agents are just advertising it based on high confidence. The bottom range is what it's saying, it's high confidence, and the top end is what they're wanting to achieve. Now, the reality is, I think in a market that's starting to, not have as much drive in it, if you say that they're saying with high confidence 1.25, and you start in a hot market, you could start 1.25 to 1.3, you'll smoke it, right? Now in this market, if it's 1.25, you as a high confidence, mate, I reckon there's going to be a bit where the buyers aren't going to see it at 1.25. You actually need to advertise it lower to get more people in, to create more interest, or you sit on the market for 3, 4, 5 months. Yeah,
and you're plodding along.
I think we're going to see there could be two sides. I think it's going to be a two-tier market.
The best, it definitely will be. I think the best thing with realestate.com and just the digital presence at the moment is every buyer that's active sees your property.
Yep.
So they'll get there. It's now a matter of turning interest into competition.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be as simple as the interest because the market was so hot. The only difference I see with COVID and the likes, I know we're speaking, it's very similar. And if we went into a lockdown, etc., obviously lifestyle locations always win.
Yep.
So you're going to have your Frankston South. Affordability still, for anyone that actually truly appreciates Frankston and what it is, you still can pick up a beautiful home like under $1 million, if not above, if it's renovated. And there's some incredible prices, but because it's becoming an incredible place.
Yeah,
I do think that it's going to be interesting with the cash rate. I think that's going to be the implication. I mean, the speculation on 2 to 3 increases, inflation hitting 5% by June. I think that's the only difference in the cost of living currently. Is definitely going to put a lot of pressure on people with mortgages.
Look, there's no doubt we're seeing that. I think the key with the interest rate rises, and it's been a buzzword for the banks, is serviceability. So you got to understand that, the banks now will go through a budget. They'll say, please plug in all your numbers. Let's be honest, I drive an Amarok. I'm diesel. My fuel has doubled. Per costs per week, for example. So you're
going to get an electric car?
Yeah, I might get an electric scooter.
I was actually thinking
what I'm saying is, for the normal person, it's $600 net extra a month that I've got to pay.
Yeah,
times that by 12, that's $7,200. It's a lot of money. And then you look at the food bills, your gas bill, everything's going up at a rate of night. So what that's going to do is limit people's expenditure to loan more. So when the cash rate's down, the banks are like, throw the money out. Yeah, you can borrow as much as you want, and you can service it comfortably. Now, this is where I love listening to Mark Boris, and he's got some. He talks about how things are in Australia and where it's heading. I think the levers that the government pull is the interest rates. Oh, inflation's up. Well, inflation's up because there's a lot of government expenditure. A lot of people tighten the purse strings after Christmas.
Yeah.
But once again, before Christmas, everyone's just blowing money. You know, I heard a really good article, or read a good article. They actually said most people that got credit cards, they won't pay back what they spend at Christmas time. The first 5 months, they're paying it back. That's insane.
Yeah.
So we've just become a tap. I mean, when you give kids money,
well, it's convenience. You think about it, right? When you wanted to go down the milk bar, you'd bring all your you'd have to bring your cash, you'd have to bring your coin, and you'd have to give it. It's very easy now when you convenience, people will spend and spend and spend, because if all you have to do is tap a thing, you don't see the difference.
Yeah.
You don't see
even
anything.
Streaming services, like you got subscriptions. I mean, for us as a business owner, you know, I've got a lot of subscriptions within our business for real estate, which is understandable. Hence why we can look at properties, etc., and see, you know, right there and then what it is. But then you go home, most people everyone's got Netflix, Spotify, you know, then you got YouTube, Upgrade, you know, you've got
Apple Music,
Paramount, Apple Music, blah, 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 Disney, Binge, you know, you name it. Everyone's got all these things. And it's like, it started off being $5, then it's like $14. KO's, you know, it was $9.99, now it's $35. What I'm saying is everything is going up. So when everyone plugs those figures in for serviceability, and I think for the first home buyer market, they're actually going to get a bit of a shock. People that have got company cars, hey, well done, well played. Because, you know, if you can get a company car, they'll eliminate, you know, just under 10 grand, I reckon, per annum in terms of, you know, affordability, etc. Easy.
It is an interesting time.
It is. So what's your take on it at the moment, Josh, with what's
I think Frankston, so I think
the market,
Frankston and Frankston South are two different markets.
Yeah.
Frankston South has always been the baby to Mount Eliza. Yeah. Mount Eliza's stock is really slowly moving, not much at all.
It's growing though, isn't it? It's like more properties coming on.
Yeah, more property. Yeah, I was going to say growing is in the price. I was like, no, I reckon it will probably go the other way.
Yeah.
I reckon the median will come off a little bit. Obviously, the only time and the asterisk I'll put on that is if there is a bit of a lockdown and the work from home kicks back in and all that sort of stuff comes back. I do think, you know, lifestyle homes, when you don't travel, people spend money on lifestyle. So they'll want to live in homes. They'll, you know, purchase something down here, make a better lifestyle move, maybe something they've always wanted to do, they just never activated. Yeah. Frankston South being at the median is 1.3 at the moment. Anything over 1.5 is really slow. Like there's not, the foot traffic isn't there. However, quality buyers are still moving and transacting in that marketplace. In Frankston, I think that's where I think it will still surprise people. I think it will continue to grow. We've said it before. I think Frankston will be $1 million suburb. It's just the supply and demand, right? Mount Eliza has 6,000 homes, just over. Frankston South has 8,000, 8,400. Frankston has 22,000. That's growing. That's not slowing down. So it's
more developments as well coming along.
Well, you've got pockets upon pockets upon pockets in Frankston itself. So there's, you know, we've grown up in it. We've lived it our whole lives. I think that it is, you know, only growing the infrastructure. I mean, you look at what Kringle Hub has to offer. So many people we talk to that even live in Mount Eliza, they'll go and do their shopping down at Kringle because you get the free parking. You've got
Henry's.
How convenient. You've got Aldi, Coles, Woolies, Henry's all in one location. Go to Frankston. What do you have? And you got to pay for parking. So I think that there's more.
There's certainly, I think what we're seeing is, you know, buyers are certainly seeing I think the biggest key that we saw drive the prices was the extension of the Peninsula University
the hospital. Without doubt.
That certainly propelled Frankston in all stratosphere for investors. And also I think and you got to remember the demographic that we're dealing with. There's a lot of people that are, you know, baby boomers that are sort of starting to retire and they're looking, and they're further down the peninsula. They want to get closer to, you know, specialists, where majority, if you look along Frankston, we've got cardiologists, we've got, you know, all these radiologists. There's so many. We're very blessed with all the medical stuff. And then you've got the brand new hospital that's there, the current existing one. You've got Monash University. You got Frankston TAFE, you got the train line that connects you to the CBD. Yeah. So we can see, and we've been saying that for a long time, that Frankston and Frankston South still got real good growth.
We're seeing a lot of locals move in the same market too.
Yeah.
I always say when you're selling, you're going to get a like for like, if not plus the amount of years, unless you've done an extension or renovation or something. If you're an investor, normally you'll sell to an investor. It's quite, unless you've done a lot of changes and you've opened up a new buyer pool.
Yep.
We are seeing a lot of that, but we are seeing a lot of people, like you just said, there's a lot of, older, parents that are buying for their kids and buying into Frankston because of the affordability or what was. And that's what I think, investors drove that price up as well.
There's also a drive of
on the first home buyers
expats coming back from, there's a lot of uncertainty around the world, in particular in the Middle East, but also in some parts of Asia. So they're sort of going, well, look, you know what, let's move back home because we're fairly isolated. I just hope some fuel tankers come our way. And
well, the best thing, the beach. I mean, that's one of the best things about Frankston, and I think being that close, we were the cheapest suburb on the on the peninsula. And the second was Rosebud. I think we've now overtaken them, but it is an interesting time. I think the market will continue in Frankston.
I think we'll look back at this episode 14 of Merchant and go, you know what, there was some really good
episode 14. I thought
there's some really gold nuggets here, and I think we'll look back, with the 1st of July, with the new rules, with the auctions that are coming in. We know that. If you give buyers certainty, they're going to make a play for it. And I think that's the key with sellers. Absolutely. I'll say to sellers, if you're trying to do the dance and not really say what you're willing to sell for, or if you're going to put to a higher price, look, everything's got a price. Some people are willing to pay it. If you're in a really exclusive street, high-end street, and you can put that price on it, you can get away with it. Absolutely. Because to get there, you need to pay tomorrow's price to be there. But if you're just a run-of-the-mill, and you're putting a huge price on it, well, look, I can tell you now, us two here, we're not your agents because we don't want to waste our time.
Well, we've seen
we don't want to waste the buyer's time. We don't want to waste, importantly, our time and your time because to get it ready, show ready, to get people in, takes a lot of effort.
Well, it was very different. Remember, like you said, 20 years ago, to find out what a property was listed at, you'd actually have to go into the offices. And other agents probably wouldn't have even been truthful about what they'd listed it for, with another agent.
There's a lot of Fugazi and, a lot of this, that.
But now it's
everything's
clear
publicly
as day.
The other thing is now we've got to report every single, so we have some buyers will say, oh, can you please withhold the price? People that would flip homes would most definitely want that because they don't want to say, oh, look, I paid $700 for it. They're gonna get their own skill set to brand new kitchens, bathrooms, laundries, whatnot, and then put it back on the market. They want to. The buyers will go, hang on, they only paid $700, and then now they're wanting 1.4. How can that be? You know. So there's a lot of things that are coming into play that we'll see. It'll be an interesting landscape 2026 in real estate here in Victoria.
It's definitely shifting. The foot traffic, the unserious ones are getting shipped off.
Yep.
And I think that, there's always, like we said, it's a lifestyle location. So people are always going to transact, move, come down to the area. And we are seeing that a lot. That's why I think there's a lot of locals moving internally, but we are still seeing a lot of city buyers come down, and we are seeing people still, like we said, there was an expat overseas bought into Frankston. He'll enjoy that when he moves back. So there's still a lot of investment because people see the value. So
absolutely,
guys, thank you so much for watching. Is there anything else you want to add, Dad?
We've got some brand new listings on our doorstep. We've been quite active. One's just come to market, 5 Pindara Boulevard, Langwarrin. It is an absolute cracker. It's online. Go to merchant.com.au. You'll be able to see it there. We've got a couple of really good ones coming to market. 3 Anthony Court in Seaford. Lovely 3-bed, 1-bath, single car port. On its own title, first home buyer, entry level. That one's going to go to the market 695 to 750, beach side of the highway there. So literally minutes away from the beach. The cafes and whatnot, and the beautiful beaches that Seaford has. We've got another one there, 35A, Baden Powell Drive, Frankston South, over 700 square metre block, 3-bed, 1-bath, updated, going to auction. And then we've also got 30 Violet Street. Tenants just moved out. Owners can go in, get it all nice, strip it back, give it a paint, give it a nice clean, get it styled, redo the gardens, etc. And that's going to go to market $950 to $1 million, and we're expecting great things there.
Awesome, guys. To summarize, everything is going to sell if it's priced well and it's presented well. You can't do anything more than that. The world is a bit of a mess at the moment, but if you have the right agent in your corner, you'll get a great result. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.
Cheers.